God is not outside of us. God is within. Depression just causes you to rest. You know, some people just never get out of that depression because they don't listen. I've always had the voice. It's always been there. Because of my trauma, because of that stuck in my body, it was really hard for me to hear it. All of a sudden, it was like boom, 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 happening. Immediately gets me connected with my body. Because when it excites you, like when it brightens you, I've always followed that. Though if you were to say, I'm going to kill you, the ego would fight that. That my children will always see the best reflection of me. And I feel like Alchemist was actually like really the first sign of my spiritual development. Frickin' learned that from healing all my trauma.
Welcome to the Willpower Podcast.
I really kind of want to start off on like my spiritual growth journey, which got me into coaching, because the way how I've been setting up my coaching lately is honestly completely different than what I've seen people doing. And most people I see, like, they build the clientele through like different programs, or they're getting the email lists, or they're doing different, there's many facets I've seen. So like, I'll kind of give you some context of what I'm doing. So my journey as far as like spiritual growth, like, and that can go in like deep levels, but it started when I was living in New York, and I had like what people would call a dark night of the soul, which means I just like my whole world flips upside down. Who I thought I was, just like my identity, all that, and getting out of like a partnership. And that was my catalyst for spiritual growth. And so then as I grew, just God's little breadcrumbs were just left along the way of guiding me towards different facets of spiritual growth and just living life. So my background is I have a theatrical background. I went to acting school for 4 years in an acting conservatory. And after I got out of school, I moved to New York to pursue that professionally. And then when the catalyst of the Dark Night of the Soul happened, that was when I just got very disillusioned with that, of like being famous and being in Hollywood. I wanted to pursue something that just inspired me more. And so that led me into physical comedy and clowning. So when I was in college, we studied mask work, and the red nose, clown nose, was one of the ones that I got attracted to the most. Little did I know that when I started to pursue that more in New York, it actually was guiding me to inner child work. So the clown nose was just that gateway to it. And so it started off where I was doing street performance, and I was connecting with people on the street. I was tapping in. I was constantly like getting people involved in their inner child and doing all sorts of stuff. And then that bloomed into me traveling to Central America, where I perform for kids. And then I just kept following that. So the more I followed the breadcrumbs of the inner child, that's when it started to lead me into shadow work. Because with inner child comes the depths. I would say that inner child work is the most challenging work, because I mean, it coincides with shadow work. It is the most challenging, and it can reveal a lot of trauma. And so through those facets, I was reading, for me, I didn't gravitate towards coaching books. I looked at books like Untethered Soul, The Way of the Peaceful Warrior, Siddhartha, the Bible, very like juicy, enriching spiritual journeys of different individuals. And so it was kind of like I was following different books that were giving me messages on the hero's journey. Mm-hmm. And so learning along that way of life and shadow work, inner child work, then I moved, and I'm really truncating the story, but I then moved to Austin. Why I moved to Austin, which I've been here for about 2.5 years, is I met a former mentor and got involved in a group, and they did retreats. And so when I went into the retreat world, that's when I started learning about holding space and containers and releasing and trauma. Like it just like that whole world opened up to where I was seeing how to hold space, how to create a safe space, how to know when people are releasing and what that looks like. And then once I got outside of that, that's when my coaching started to really come online. The coaching for me, I mean, honestly, there are so many different facets of coaches. It depends on what they're geared towards. Because for instance, there's a coach that teaches people not to be people pleasers. Like there's a coach that, everybody has their niche. And I started to, as I started coaching, I was like, the first niche, I would say, or the avatar that I was focusing on is men that had a mother wound. And as I started working on that, the nuance of working with men and working with men with mother wounds is like the facet of being able to find the right person to work with, finding the man that's ready to do the work. This is how I kind of do my stuff, is literally through word of mouth. I don't post on my Insta stories. I don't bring up, hey, I'm doing a program. I'm like, I've just gotten to this place in my life, and there's a lot to it, but I'm just gonna keep it short. I would rather and feel it takes less pressure off of me for people to see me, and if they want to work with, like, they see my Instagram, if they want to work with me, then that process can be created. I would rather do word of mouth than trying to get, like, this is just my own personal opinion, giving a free workshop, and then once I get a free workshop, then they're gonna buy into this next thing that I have, and then this and I get it. It's to each their own, but I'm like, that just it actually doesn't inspire me. It doesn't thrill me. What thrills me is to have conversations like these, to connect with people, and then the person gets to choose, like, wow, I really like your energy. Like tell me more about you. And then once I tell people more, it just like, it kind of happens organically. Because I don't know, are you a coach as well?
Not really. Not
okay.
At the moment.
Gotcha. I've been around a lot of coaches, and from my experience from those coaches is that each of them started by really wanting to serve and help people and just help people in a certain way of life. And that's why I became a coach, is because and this happened organically. It didn't happen like, oh, everybody's making money through coaching and it seems like this thing to do. There was a point where, like, somebody said, like, why don't you be a coach? And at the time, I wasn't even ready to be a coach. I was just like, I'm not really feeling it. But when I had my own healing journey, I looked at my wounds, done the work, all of a sudden it was like, boom, energy out the wazoo. And like, I wanted to serve, like, not just every once in a while. I just wanted to work with people. I wanted to serve them. And like serving to the point of doing it for free. And, I don't know if you know the phrase sweat equity. Like, people put in the sweat equity at first, they put in the free work so that they can get the testimonials and all that, and then you start the work. Like, people start to see your work and stuff like that. And for me, I started doing that, and then I was just like, well, shoot, like I love working for people, and obviously this is an energy exchange. So it's like, at that point, that's when I was like, okay, now I set my rates, and that's where I'm at right now, where I'm at with coaching.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I love that. And I do see where, like, it's not going to work for everybody, but it made me think of Tesla. Like, Tesla doesn't run ads. They don't have billboards.
Yeah. I mean, freaking Tesla, man.
Their cars are the advertisement.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. And again, it's like, to each their own. That's what I'm working with right now. Mm-hmm. I am totally open to, like, for that to change if so be it. But for me, I let God lead the way. You know, I know with some people, when they hear the word God, they could get triggered, because it's like, it feels like, oh, is that coming from religion or da-da-da? No, it's not coming from religion. I just believe that God works through me, and I just let that be facilitated, and make sure that I'm always a clear channel for his work, for her work, because I believe God is both mother, father, and energy. And so I just let God do the work, and so far God's just saying, do it this way.
What does that look like for you? Like, how do you know?
How do I know what?
That your God is, like you're saying, you let God direct you. Mm-hmm. What does that look like?
Yeah.
Is it a feeling? Is it a
so I
intuition?
literally, it's and what I consider it's like your intuition. You know, you may hear somebody say, like, listen to the still small voice, because normally the voice that is coming from unconditional love, which is what God is to me, is not going to shout, is not going to be abrasive. It's just going to guide you. And there will be these moments where, and I get it all the time now. It's just like, literally, I just get the messages. I ask the question, because it always starts with it helps to ask the question, like, what, like, for instance, right now, it's like, where do I need to go today? And then I'll allow myself different options, because it starts with aligning with your purpose. When you have your purpose, you have your target, then you can ask the questions like, where do I need to go today? Is it here? Is it here? Is it here? And these are all aligning your purpose. And then God will literally say, go here. And it's very pronounced. And this is the first time I've actually spoken about this to other people, because it's been my way of life lately. And I don't really, like, it's literally, like, I get so electrified by how I live this life, but to some people it may seem like weird or crazy or whatever.
How long have you been living this way?
So listening to God, like what's God's telling me, this has been happening for me. Probably it really came online for me last April, May. I came out of ceremony with Cambo, and Cambo and I have a very, like, close relationship. Like, since I've been called to doing Cambo.
And what is Cambo?
Cambo is from the Philomedusa tree frog that comes from Peru. And so a little backstory is Cambo was discovered through Aya. So I believe it's the Matsi tribe in Peru. Their tribe, the chief of the tribe, their whole tribe was having, there was a illness that was going around the tribe. The chief went through his Aya ceremony and got the message that he needs to find this tree frog and minister it to the people in his village. And that's where I believe it first started. That's the story. And so it's literally taking it's like they basically tickle the frog on the bottom of its belly, and this little juice comes out the top of the frog's back, like a neuropeptide. or there's neuropeptides in it, and they scrape the juice off, and they put a burn mark in your skin to burn off the first layer of skin, and then they put the juice or the frog stuff on that, and then that moves through your body. And so I love Kambo so much because it's not a psychoactive. Nothing wrong with psychoactive, but what I've found is it immediately gets me connected with my body, and you feel it immediately, and it does its magic. They call it the great revealer. It brings the things that need to be released to the surface. It's very cleansing. And so when it was like one of the ceremonies I got out of, I literally, basically, who I was no longer. And what I mean by that is all the masks that I had created had just been put down, and then my real self came forward. And so from that point on, that's when the messages started happening. And it was very prominent. And I won't lie and be transparent. It was scary at the beginning, because it like I would hear voices here and there, like as far as intuitive things that were being led by God. But when I was able to fully surrender and ready to surrender to that energy of love, all of a sudden it was like boom, 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 boom happening. And then the compression of time frames, just like it was, everything just started to speed up because I was listening, rather than being like, every once in a while I'll be like, I don't really trust that, or like da 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 da. Now it's like I know what the voice is, and I don't want it to make it sound like I'm hearing voices. It's like it's a true voice, and I always ask the questions, is this coming from an unconditionally loving place? Because that's the most important thing. And when you know what unconditional love is, that's when you can decipher between ego, which is the voice that sometimes can lead you astray if you're not listening, or it's love. It could either be fear or love. Fear is ego.
So you did this experience, like, were the voices just amplified? And by voice, I know exactly what you mean. You're not saying like, oh, I'm hearing things.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I'm having a schizophrenic. It's like
yeah, but that's interesting about schizophrenia. I have a whole theory on that, which is very interesting. But yeah.
Okay, we'll let's talk about that.
Yeah, I don't want to go off the rails.
Yeah, so was it something you noticed before? Because I definitely can relate to what you're saying.
Yeah. I've always had the voice. It's always been there. But because of my trauma, because of that stuck in my body, it was really hard for me to hear it. Half the time, I never really listened. Well, I take that back. I have always followed what brings me excitement. And I think that's a really good key to following love. Because when it excites you, like when it brightens you, I've always followed that. And I've gone against the grain. So it started with acting. That was the first, like, in a sense, me listening. So I just kept following that. And it was freaking challenging. And freaking just losing faith, and not as like, is this what I want to do anymore? But I noticed, and this was the pattern, when I wasn't following that, the depression would get, because I used to deal with deep, deep depression, and I don't anymore. But depression to me is always a sign that you're not listening to the voice, and you're letting that take over. And depression just causes you to rest and listen. And some people just never get out of that depression because they don't listen. They just think, oh, I have depression. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, a lot of mental health, like disorders or whatever you want to call it, depression, anxiety, are seen as a problem in themselves.
Yeah, and I don't want to sound discompassionate, because I know that people deal with that. I know that people are medicated with that, and I don't want to refute their experience. However, in my experience and me dealing with that very deeply, that's just not true for me. Of depression being a disease or something that you live with the rest of your life.
And I think, yeah, like, of course, we can't generalize everything, but I think it's safe to say that there are a large number of people who would have that same experience, where maybe they're depressed, maybe they have anxiety, but it's because there's something missing.
Yeah.
There's something that they need to take a closer look at. And then there could also be people who just have a brain chemistry, issue that they can't really fix without medicating.
What do you mean by that?
Like, there could be people who literally just need to take medication and there isn't another way. I don't know. I'm guessing there are people like that. But I think there are a lot that could just follow that intuition, and that might take them somewhere out of it. Okay, schizophrenia. You want to talk about that?
Sure.
Okay.
I mean, any of the listeners, take this with a grain of salt, but this is something that I've grown to understand. People with schizophrenia, hearing voices, are entities. And what I mean by that, entities specifically, it's not like these crazy demons or whatever. Now, they could be, but entities in my eyes are something that is created in the mind. And it can be two things. The person, the mind creates it, or that was passed to them. They're energies that are locked in the body. And so for most of the time, and I could be wrong, but this is a theory, most of the time people with schizophrenia are deep feelers. They're very intelligent, very smart, and they take on people's energy very easily. And so when those types of people don't know how to work with that manifestation that's going on inside, that's when, they lose themselves. They go into psych wards. They literally are hearing voices, which is straight up legitimate, because, like, how many voices do you hear a day of, like, you're a fucking piece of shit, like you're stupid, da 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 da. Like, I mean, I don't really hear those voices much anymore because I've done the work to clear that. So it's but for people that hear voices all the time, like, that, I believe is for some aspects of people that are very empathetic, these energies can really start to take over them. You see people on the street, like, let's start with homeless people. And God, it's like every time I see a homeless person and I can immediately see they're in a schizophrenic episode, you can see it in their eyes. You can see it how they're talking to themselves. Like, those facets are, it's literally, there is an energy inside them that is taking over their mind and their spirit. And it's heartbreaking. That takes deep work to, I mean, I'm just going to say that if somebody were to work with a schizophrenic that decided to go in the shamanic realms and work with them in that way, I would be curious to see if that's ever been done before. I haven't really investigated it. But from my understanding is schizophrenia, it's like they're in the in-between. It's like they're walking a tightrope. And it's like they're in they could step on the other side and be in reality, or they can step on the other side and be in complete disillusion and listening to the voices. And it's like, yeah. Because, like, you hear about it, it's like they're, like, very prominent voices, like, kill yourself. Mm-hmm. Or, it's like, hurt yourself, go burn this house. Like, it's wild stuff. Mm-hmm. There's a difference between schizophrenia and Tourette's. Because Tourette's is, like, it's like a nerve, it could be like a nervous twitch or whatever, or they could, like, say something, and then schizophrenia where it's like manifested through different parts, different personalities, which to me those personalities are just entities that are in their body.
Yeah, I think it's also very paranoid often. Paranoid schizophrenia. Like you're hearing voices, but then there's like something that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Like you need to prepare for it.
100%.
Do something about it.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. It was like, there's going to be somebody showing up at your house and da-da-da-da-da. I actually, so I know a little bit about this too, is because when I was living in New York, I got this idea to write a play. And still, honestly, it's still on my laptop, just kind of like sitting there. But it was based off of me doing a deep psilocybin trip that I went into. And when I was in that psilocybin trip, it was, and this was before I really knew anything about growth and like holding space for myself and all that. It was just recreational, and it was scary. Like, I went into a really dark place in that trip. And when I got out of it and I got this idea, I was like, whoa, it'd be cool to like do a play where it's this guy like that can't really find reality in life. It started off with psilocybin, but then it birthed into this like, and then I birthed into like, what if I did a play on a person who's schizophrenic? And that's when I became fascinated with schizophrenia, and I found this book. I just looked for, I can't remember the name of the book, but it was this woman who was writing about her life as a schizophrenic, and was fascinating to me because it was just like, if she wasn't on her meds, she would get the voices, she would get paranoid, she would be completely anxious, and like just her like ants on her body kind of vibe. So that's why I know a little bit about it.
Into it. Yeah, it's a very interesting thing that happens.
But thanks for letting me dive into that a little bit.
Yeah, fascinating.
Yeah.
So coaching, let's talk about how do you help people in their lives? Like, what are you looking for? You mentioned men with mother wounds. Is that still what you are?
I've actually, it's so funny. Like, I started thinking like, oh, I want to work with an avatar and like specific person. And then I just got to this place. I was like, I want to work with anybody that wants to live an authentic life, bar none. And so that could be men or women. I mean, like, yeah, I could go the route of saying, oh, it's because I used to deal with people pleasing, but now I don't anymore. And that I could do that. But I realized that the people I want to work with are people that want to live an authentic life. And so what that looks like me working with them, if like I was to work with them. So it's just really getting to know that person, getting to know their past and where they came to where they are, where they're looking to be. Like, are they looking to go towards their purpose? Because I think, honestly, for a person to live a happy, fulfilled life, they need purpose. It's just, it feels very matter of fact. It feels very of nature. Like, your dog has a purpose to chill and live life. Like, just, I feel like dogs are the manifestation of God. It's like they just are unconditionally loving, and they're just be. Now, it could be for a mom. It's like, I just want to be a full-time mom. Or for, somebody is like, I want to be a professional athlete. I want to, it's, everybody has their thing. Everybody has their gifts. So I think ultimately I'm going to guide people to their purpose, but like, to be able to be guided toward their purpose, they need to live in authenticity. And so it really depends on the person. So like I worked with this one woman. She had quite the past, and I won't say her name, of course, but like, she had been through a lot. Had multiple cancers, botched surgeries, like quite the past. And I started off with getting to know their dynamic, because for me, the most important thing is to know what wounds are coming from the mother and the father. That, to me, is the most important aspect of working with somebody, is to understand their dynamic in the home, understand their dynamic with what their mother is like, what their father is like, because that's where it all stems from. It's the mother and the father. That's why originally I wanted to work on the mother wound with men, is because I have quite the past with my family of like women in my family that have been talk about trauma and the things that I've had with relationships with women and them revealing things of their past and how much I've learned about rape and molestation. I started to get this pattern, hearing this pattern where I was like, holy shit, this is very rampant. And this is happening from men. And so my goal was to focus on the mother wound, because I think that's ultimately what is going to help heal the relationships between men and women, is to work with the men that have that wound and to be able to help them foster a beautiful relationship with their mother. When they can heal that aspect, then their relationship with the woman is going to change. But, there's the facet of like, for example, like men say like all women are crazy. I'm not saying all men say this, but there's be like, why bitches be crazy or whatever. Like, I'm just, and my whole thing is like, no, they're not crazy. It's just your relationship with the feminine, your relationship with your mother, to be real. So, but to guide myself back to that, like giving you an example of how I work is with this woman in particular. She had a father wound. And unfortunately, I don't think we're going to work with each other any longer because of it's just she's not ready to do the work. And that's the kind of thing you're going to, half the time it's like, if people really want to change, they're going to be ready and they're going to work with you. But if people are not ready to do the work, like, there's only so much I can do as a coach. Coaches are meant to be guides, not tyrants. It's like, I'm going to do my best to get you to be your authentic self. But if I have a wall up, there's only so much I can do. So with her in particular, it was around, I noticed that she had been in many psilocybin ceremonies. And I had noticed that, and they had not been doing her any good. She said she would, but she literally was like, I am not affected by them. And she would do like a pretty heavy dose. And I'm like, you're a tough cookie if you can make it past like 6-7 grams and nothing happens, And then some people would say, oh, you need to take more. I'm like, or maybe not take more. And maybe psilocybin's just not your medicine, because like the plant will show you, like, will reveal itself to you if you need to work with it. And so I noticed that with her. And so I told her, because of my experience with Kambo, this is my experience, is like, maybe this medicine Kambo would be, I personally think it would be great for this person, because it's not psychoactive. And why I think it's great for her is because she was very cerebral, and she uses her mind to control things. And when I see people trying to control aspects of their life all the time so that they can appear safe, that tells me that psilocybin is probably not the best thing, because if they go into psilocybin, they're going to try to keep controlling things. With Kambo, it's like, there's no, it's okay for me to swear on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go for it.
There is no fucking way that you cannot control Kambo. It makes you surrender. It's a purging medicine, and it literally makes you surrender. And so, and it didn't surprise me that, like, when she read up on it, it completely terrified her, because there's so much out there on Google saying that Kambo's a poison. Everything is a poison to an extent, right? There's actual poison that will kill you, and then there's in different quantities, like, it can be medicine. And Kambo it's a very powerful medicine, and it scared her when she saw those articles. So she never ended up doing it. And I'm leading up to why we're not going to be working together anymore. And I just knew it was going to happen this way naturally. So we set a really powerful intention. She was going to go into a psilocybin ceremony. So I decided to set a really powerful intention, or I didn't set it. I just guided her to set it. And we guided her, it was around peace and surrender, to allow the medicine so that she could fully be in peace and surrender. Nothing happened in the psilocybin ceremony. She described, she was like she was trying to find answers. Like, I didn't really feel anything, but she was trying to find answers. But what I thought was ironic is that Trump got elected the very next day. And she was a complete wreck. She was a wreck. And in my perspective, that is a blessing in disguise. Because her intention was to find peace and surrender. You get the one person that you hate the most, who is now president of the United States. And what do you do? What do you have to do? You have to surrender, because you can't control it. And she was a complete wreck. And so then I said to her, I'm trying to be as compassionate as I can in this moment. But as a coach, it's like you got to tell them things that they don't want to hear, but they need to hear. I said to her, I was just like, your medicine is Trump. The medicine right now is Trump. And she couldn't handle it. And, I even told her, the person that needs, because to truly have freedom part of that is forgiveness. And I just said, an unlocking or a gateway for you is going to be able to forgive the aspects of the masculine. And one of them, looking you straight in the face, is Trump. Do you want to be free? Or do you want to be scared for the rest of your life? That's authenticity. And so that's why I say I am not everybody's cup of tea, right? And so, yes, I could be tepid and speak to an avatar specifically who I want to work to. And I guess the way I am is going to gravitate my avatar. It's going to happen no matter what. But yeah, it's just I saw that and it's just like, I know that the specific clients that I work with are going to be people that are ready to be free ultimately. And then there's a lot of, there's so many other things that I do in the work that I could talk more about if you want me to, just about inner child work, shadow work, things like that. But that's just kind of giving you an example of my process of starting to work with somebody.
Yeah, there is with coaching, that is very much the case, that they need to be they're really doing all of it. The coach is there to just kind of show them the way, but they have to go along. And there's no done for you plug in, just get me from this to this. It's no, yeah. You have to do it. Yeah. It doesn't matter who you hire. You still have to do it yourself.
And at the end of the day, it's not about making money. It just isn't. It can't be. Because here, and I'll explain. It can't be about making money to help somebody. If you truly want to help somebody and you want to get to the core and the root, it can't be about that. You got to really love what you do, in my opinion. And you got to really love it. And to me, I want to be able to get them, unlocking them to go on their way. I am okay with it being a one and done thing. I know that that's just not the process of healing. It's it takes patience and time. And if somebody really wants to transform, they would keep working. keep working. But I am totally okay with, maybe this is just not the most what's the word, where it's like you keep making money, like was it fruitful? Fruitful. It's maybe it's not the most fruitful business standard, but I'm just there to free somebody. And so however long that looks like for somebody, I could see like, oh, this person doesn't need to work with me. They're actually doing just fine. So it's like I'm not gonna just like, oh, I want to work with you, I want to work with you. You need the work and you need the work. It's like, nah, that's just dishonest. Yeah. So a good authentic coach, I feel, is it's like they're not going to sell them. They're going to be like, they're going to listen, they're going to hear them, and they're going to be like, you don't need my help. If they don't need my help, because I mean, I've met a couple of people where I started helping them, and then I was like, oh, they don't need my help. They're fine. They're like, they could use a couple of advice here and there, but they're good, you know. But yeah, I don't know why I got on that.
I mean, that's a good standard as a coach, like live up to what you're kind of teaching people to do.
Yeah. It's like, I think about masters, like people that live under the radar, right? Most of these like Zen like, okay, let's just like Mr. Miyagi, like he would be considered a master, right? He's not going out there trying to sell his program. Okay? He's literally, if somebody wants to work with them, you're like, you're going to have to wash the car, paint the fence, bro. Yeah. Like, and it makes me laugh because it's like, Mr. Miyagi is truly a master, and you feel it. And it's like, God, the actor who played him was fantastic. And like everybody thought that Mr. Miyagi was actually like Japanese or whatever. Nah, he's like from California. Like he talks like this, basically. It's pretty fascinating, but the master teacher is I feel the master teacher, guide, coach, whatever you want to call it, is gonna live most of the time. Those types of people are gonna live under the radar because they understand that the way the universe works, the way God works. I mean, this is just my experience, but the way God works is it's just like, it'll come. No rush.
Yeah. And another thing is, once you've kind of understood, when you understand something that deeply, like you recognize that money isn't the end goal.
Yeah.
It's not the point of doing anything, like you said.
You know what my favorite thing to do is? And this also came, like, whenever the coaching thing came online, it made me realize I absolutely love connecting with people. Like this conversation right here, it brings me so much joy. Like, because I'm a curious person. I love talking, as you can see. I love talking, and I also love, because that's why I'm creating my podcast, is because I love, having conversations with others and hearing about their life and hearing what makes them tick. So yeah, I don't know, man. I'm just gonna say this, and maybe it's an unpopular opinion, or maybe not. It's like, I've been seeing so much of this, like, fucking coaching programs, and I've been seeing so many damn programs, and it exhausts me. It exhausts me, and I get it. It's like everybody's trying to sell something. Everybody's trying to get somebody in a program. Everybody's trying to heal your divine masculine. It's like, to each their own. I love it, and I'm also seeing a lot of inauthentic nature in these programs because it's about making money. I can see through it. It's like, are you really here to serve, or are you here to make money? And when you get down to it, it's just like, I don't want to say this for everybody, because I do think that making money is beautiful, but making money is a byproduct. And I just pay attention to people that are like, yeah, I'm all authentic, and I'm all like, I'm not about making money, but then they charge like $10,000 for an hour. It's like, oh, you're not about making money? Okay. I get it. And like, you can tell I'm very passionate about this. Like it's like they preach about worth and like, you know, if you're worthy, you'll like, I charge this much because this is my avatar for who I need to work with and da 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 da. Like, I get it. But you see people that live a very happy life with very little. I've met people that live a very happy life with so little. And it makes me think. It's like, you live a very happy life with very little. And like, when people are around you, they feel great. And I'm like, but then I see all these freaking coaches who are living in mansions who are seemingly having a happy life, helping these people, charging them out the wazoo. And there's just an aspect where I'm like, I call bullshit. There's something that you still feel that you want. You need this money. But when you get to the top with all this money, it's like, where is that money going to go? What are you doing with it? Are you going to use it for charity? Or like, what are you doing? Like, I don't know. I'm seeing this more through the veil lately where I'm like, I just call bullshit on a lot of these coaches out there that I'm like, with like 500,000 followers, and they've got these freaking pyramid programs or whatever, where it's like, once you work with me, you'll pay this much, but you just got to kind of work your way up. Everybody has a pyramid thing. I get it. And I'm like, I don't know. Thank you for letting me like,
yeah, talk it out. Yeah, no, I think there's no money on the other side, or there's no happiness on the other side of money beyond a certain point. Like, yeah, if you're living in poverty, yes, some money would probably make you happier because you're no longer like stressed about paying.
Yeah, it's like the support system.
Yes, but once you get to that point, there are studies for this. Like, once you hit, like, I think it's like $70,000 in the US. Once you hit that point, like, more money doesn't lead to more happiness. Yeah. It just, like, it doesn't. Yeah. So I think, I mean, if coaches seem to be living a happy life, it's not because of the mansion. Yeah. I don't believe. It's not because of the mansion. It's not because of the cars. It's
not because of the sauna or the cold plunge or the, like, you know, that you can, you know, you've got your, yeah. It's, I get it too. It's like, that's a style. People have their styles and their reflections of like how they want to live their life. And that's great. And then I'm just like, you know, what's with all the stuff?
Yeah, no, I like the idea of, like, if you are going to accumulate resources, then deploying them in a way that is still serving your purpose. Yeah. So whether that is a charity or whether that is like putting money into a business that is doing something positive. Yeah.
You know how I would, this is kind of what I've been on lately. How I want to live my life is to live with just enough. Just enough to be able to support whenever I have, like, in a future relationship where I can support our family. We can support like our garden and whatever, just enough. And then the rest of the money goes out, like, to me. I live just beyond or just within my means, and then the rest of the overflow goes out. And there's no holding on to it. It just goes out so it can help others. That's just kind of what I've been on lately. It's like, because I just got this idea just recently. It's like, I want to start doing movement classes because I have like a dance background and all that. And I want to start doing movement classes, and I want to charge people like however much, like maybe let's just say $20 a class. All those $20 goes to a charity, and then I say whatever you want to pay me after that fact, just to me, whatever you want to do. And I just want to do that. Because, yeah, I've got, like, there's other things I love to do. I'm working on, like, right now, I really want to learn carpentry. And I've been in the process right now, hence why I'm working with furniture assembly. It's like I'm working my way up because I really love it. Like I really love building. And that would be my, like, in a sense, my supplemental income. And then the rest of that, just like helping people just to be in relationship with others is just healing people's vessels just a way of, in a sense, it's just like, I don't know, I guess it's like a kind of like a non-for-profit sort of vibe, but I don't know, that's just about what's been swimming in my noggin lately.
Mm-hmm. Do you ever, so with your idea of not having, like just living within what you need and then not taking the rest, my only struggle with this idea is the part where I'm like, in the future, what if something goes terribly wrong?
Yeah.
Right? And I'm like, I want to be like absolutely certain that I'm good for the rest of my life.
Sure.
That's the reason. Like, I'm a pretty frugal person. I don't spend too much money on random bullshit, but I do have this like desire for security. Mm-hmm. And that's what I like.
Yeah. I think
guides me in those.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's a support system, right? So like you're building a support system within your means of like what it is that you need and what it is that you need for, you know, if there was an emergency to happen, hospital bills, all like family emergency, things like that. Like I totally understand, and that like makes complete sense. But it's aspects of like, because in my eyes, God always provides. God will always provide, and that cyclical abundance will always come. And then the aspect of having a support system of like savings and things like that makes complete sense. Although like now, the way life is turning out, it's like, who knows what we're going to be on crypto like on the blockchain, or what are we doing these days? I still haven't gotten onto the crypto thing because I'm not even sure if it's, I don't even know. I'm still like, I see it all happening and I'm like, this sounds just way too fucking confusing, bro. Like it just, I don't know. This is just my intuition speaking. It's like, is this just another thing that government's doing to get us onto off of using currency, off of using dollar bills, so we can all be on the blockchain? Because I heard this too. It's like, think about the word, the etymology of blockchain. Blockchain. It's like a chain connected to a block, and it's like you're connected to a chain. I don't know. It seems very like constricting, but who knows? I just lately, somebody was explaining to me crypto, and it's like it's going to be the way, and I immediately, the part of me is just like, that just sounds way too confusing. It doesn't sound simple at all. I'm a very simple person. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't feel very natural, but I'm always ready to be proven wrong. But like, to answer your question about that, I do think it's important. Like, you got to have a foundation. Like, or your house will crumble. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing. So like, and that's why, one of the reasons why I'm learning building too, is so it just helps me in my life. Know what builds a proper foundation and proper amount of money and savings and things to help your family and keep your family safe.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Big, yeah, super big. Yeah.
So do you want to have a family one day?
Yes, I do. I don't know how many children, maybe 2, but you know, depending on the person I'm calling in as my wife. Mm-hmm. But that's what I want. I'm
kind of crazy. I'm like, I think my number is just whatever my future wife is willing to.
Well, that's, you know,
like,
honestly,
we'll just keep it going.
I mean, it's all about compromise. Yeah, I mean, like, if my it really depends, but if my wife wanted to do like 3 kids, I'd really have to think about it, because it's like kids are a full-time thing, and really dedicating your time and your passion and your love to them. Kids are just so important. I love kids so much. I've worked with, I've taught kids, worked with kids. They're such great teachers.
Yeah, that's another thing that comes up for me when I think about like getting to a really stable point financially, is like, I would love to not depend on a job that I need to like work at, while I have kids. I want to have like way more freedom than that.
Yeah.
Where I can be there and be able to invest the amount of time that would make their childhood that much better.
Yeah, same. Yeah, I like my goal is to never be doing something where it doesn't bring me excitement, and I want that to reflect to my kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could see also listening to that voice would be really important with kids. It's like, oh, I gotta go to work. I gotta stay late tonight.
Fuck that.
And that voice is like, no, you don't.
No, like that, and I get it. Like, but that's one of the reasons why, the foundation that I'm building right now in my life is for my future family as well. Is it's just like I want to be sure that whenever that does come, if it comes, that my children will always see the best reflection of me. Mm-hmm. Because that's just gonna get sponged right up.
Yeah, and like being a role model, that's a big deal for kids.
Yeah,
because they're learning from you, not from what you tell them, but just from how you are, who you are.
Yeah,
that's where they learn to be and how they're gonna show up.
100%. I mean, if you like. I just freaking learned that from healing all my trauma. It's like you got to really get to know the inner kid in you. Like once you know like your stuff, you realize, oh man, I just learned that all from my parents. Because you just look at your father and your mother just like you look at them like a superhero, because that's, you're being birthed out of your mother's womb, and then you're looking up into her eyes, and that's the first person you see. And the father as well. I mean, if there's a father present. Yeah, man. I love my parents though. Like I don't want anybody to think like I've done all this healing, but it's like my parent, like I'm fortunate that they were both present. I'm fortunate that they loving in some aspects. Yeah, but I have a closer relationship with both of my parents. Yeah.
Have you ever heard of the Deep Waters experience?
Tell me more. I don't know.
It's I mean, I think it lines up. You've probably done very similar work, but it's a retreat type of thing, a weekend. I'm forgetting. I think it's around San Marcos. So it's about an hour south of Austin.
Okay.
And it's very focused on childhood wounds.
Cool.
Childhood trauma, bringing it up, hero's journey, all of this kind of stuff.
Beautiful.
They make a really good distinction, I think, which is that it's not your parent that the trauma is coming from. It's the message that you received from your parent. So it's not pointing fingers. It's not blaming them. It's just saying, this is the message I received, and that I want to kill. I want to kill that message.
Oh, interesting.
So they do very cool work.
It's interesting that you use the word kill.
You do kill. You do.
That sends an alarm in my system to kill something. But tell me more about that.
Yeah, so it's very they do, what is it called? Maybe is it psychodramatic work?
Oh, okay.
Rather than talk therapy.
Oh, they act it out.
You act out things.
That sounds like in what is that new thing called family constellations? Have you heard of this?
I have heard of that. Yeah,
it's like that you act out things in life to help the healing process.
Yeah. So in this one, you kind of recruit people to play out certain messages, and then you do kind of kill them.
What? So yeah, tell me like what do you mean kill? Like
you basically just release whatever emotion is coming up, which is probably going to be anger or fear or grief, whatever it is, and then the facilitators will get you to release as much as they can, and then they'll kind of just like close the eyes of the person and like, okay, this person's out now, that message is dead. And then you get the chance to kind of rewrite the message.
Okay.
By having someone play a different character, and this is what I would have loved to hear from my dad. That kind of thing.
Do you mind if I give you a reflection on that?
Please.
Possibly the word that you're using, kill, may not be the because what it sounds like to me is that they're not killing it, but they're allowing it to be released rather than actually killing it.
Sure. Yeah.
Because what is created ends up, once it's no longer serving, it then gets released. I don't know if anything can be really, I don't think anything can be really killed.
Yes, you are reading.
The ego does. The reason why I say that is the ego does not like to be killed, and so if you were to say I'm going to kill you, the ego would fight back in a sense. So, because it's just it's when people talk about like I want to get rid of my ego, like it's not going to happen the way you think it's going to happen. Yeah, that's the reason why.
The killing term there is yes. I don't think you're genuinely going to kill that message ever. Like it's still going to be there, but you're kind of playing that out.
Got it. You're playing out the story, and then you're writing a new story.
Exactly.
Beautiful. I love that.
Yeah, super crazy. Like that was one of the most intense emotional experiences I've been through.
And you were a part of this.
I did this a couple months ago.
Wow. Yeah. It was really intense in what way?
Intense in that it put me in places that I am just not used to and very not comfortable with. So for one, I'm not good at being the center of attention. That's just not like when I'm in a group, I tend to stay out of the center, the spotlight. And this like forced me into it. I had to. And then at the same time, I'm like working through difficult things that are like with the father wound, messages that I received from my dad in front of all these people, and getting loud and being angry in front of people, which is also another thing. I have like a lot of trouble showing anger. Anger is one of the emotions that I immediately try and like shut off, suppress, and pretend I'm not angry. Yeah. So a lot of that was what was the most intense.
So the anger, the rage was coming up.
Yep.
Oh man, talk about, bro. It's like when you have so much suppressed rage and then it comes to the surface, like it's like a freaking time bomb. Just like boom. I mean, I speak from experience.
Yeah.
I had a session with shout out to I think is Connor. He's a fantastic. He does what's the name of it? NEO release technique, I think it's what it's called. But he works on different parts of the body to help to just like go into processes to release emotions. And I had this session with him and I released so much rage. And you're on a table, like a massage table, and like he basically, when you get to release stuff, he'll like just hold your arms down so that you can kind of like push up against something. And I went ape shit, bro. And I remember him like in the session being like, bro, you got a lot of rage. Like, but it's very cathartic too. Yeah. It's like once that comes to the surface, it's just what happened for me. And I don't know if this was your experience. When I released all that rage, then the tears came right after. I was like sobbing because it was like, for me, I let that all out. And then what the sobbing is grief. It's because the rage of not being able to express yourself, and then once you express yourself, then it has somewhere to go, and then it's just a lot that's when it can just that like I was a puddle after that. But
yeah, that stuff is great. So how long have you been doing things like that? Doing things your inner child work? And, like what is for me or for someone listening, what is like, I don't know, what can we expect?
Oh my gosh. Like, just start off with inner child work started off for me. That's funny, kind of funny. Inner child's work started off with me when I went to acting school, because it was just like I was playing. But then when I started to, I guess where it started for me was the book, The Artist's Way, which is this book by Julia Cameron. And it's very well known for what's called morning pages, where it's like you do stream of conscious writing, where you write for 20 minutes without picking your pen off the paper. And if it doesn't make any sense, it doesn't matter. You just write. And that was very activating for me. But in The Artist's Way, going through many facets of tending to things that you've, in a sense, forgotten to do. Inner child work is, in my eyes, is basically reparenting. You're stepping in as the mother and the father, and you're going back in time to give the love to the you that you did not receive as a child. And so it can look like, for one, the question I like to answer is like, what did you love to do as a kid? And if I get the answer, like for somebody else, they're like, I don't know. I don't remember. And it's like, we just kind of like start digging, because when you can find what it is that you excited you as a child, because that's where, to me, ultimately, everybody has their innate gifts, everyone. And so it's always known as a child. But depending on how the parenting was happening, that can get stifled pretty fast sometimes. And that's why it can be hard for people to really know, like, I don't know what I love to do, because that was never the focus. They were always trying, they were put in a very chaotic household. And so it was like they were half the time trying to keep themselves safe. You know, that's a part of inner child work, is just, reparenting yourself, giving yourself unconditional love from the mother and the father. And then there's multiple things you can do with that. You can write letters to your little child. You can go through inner child meditation. You can do rage exercises, anger exercises. You can do just like literally lying in your bed and holding yourself, listening to your emotions, asking the it really takes meditation, and really takes getting quiet and asking the question to your inner child, what is it that you need right now? But you're literally acting like a mother and a father. Mm-hmm. The highest self of the mother and the father. That's why my relationship with God is so, it's become so strong. Because once I really, really understood what unconditional love is that's the aspect of where I could reparent myself in the most loving way possible. And then the intuition would come to the surface of what I needed to do for my child. Like for me, it looked different than what it would look like for you or anybody else. So for me, it was going to walk in the woods. It was painting. It was writing in my journal. Sometimes it was freaking going exercising and punching a punching bag because my little kid needed to throw a tantrum. And it's like holding space for the child to do all those things. Music, bro, music is one of the most powerful things in my experience that can be for, if you're very resonant with music, finding songs that get you tapped in to the child. What kind of music would your little child like to listen to? Age 5, age 6, age 7, age 8, age 9, but it can keep going up. Through that process, that's when shadow work coincides with it. When you start to do the real healing. But when you're not necessarily going into the shadow realms, but when you're really just trying to tend to your child and give them the love of play, and it can be, inner child work can be light, but then there's also the dark. Mm-hmm. But it's what does your little child need? Would really needs to go on a walk? Does it need to exercise? Does it need to read a book? Does it need to watch a movie? Fueling that play and that heart and that compassion and that love that we want if you were raising a child. What you would want to see them. But that, yeah, I think I answered that question.
Do you guide your clients through a lot of this stuff?
Yeah. So I did a session where I guided them, and I used a meditation. I literally created this on the spot for the person. Had them on a walking meditation, and then guided them into the woods. I mean, you hear a lot of people do this. It's like you get into a place that makes you feel safe. It's like mossy knoll. This person, I got them to go into this spot in the woods and guided them. And I tend to be very like intuitive. I would consider, and we could talk a little bit about this as well, consider myself a medium, because I can tap in with energies pretty quickly, of like energy like inside, like just like see if it's coming from mother, father, whatever, and guiding people in different ways. So for this specific person, it was like, oh, I just got that they wanted to be in the woods. So but then I sometimes will do something where it's like I'm guiding them to a moment in time to help with that. But this, so I guided this person into the woods in their mind's eye. And then once they were relaxed, I then welcomed in the child to come in the woods, and he meets up with them. And this just takes a very relaxed place. And then I just basically go on a dance with him of like, what does this child want to say to you? Is this child upset? Are they unhappy? Are they angry? And picking an age too is important. Like, what age does this child, is this child? Because if it's a specific age, it's guiding you to a specific moment in time, and it will always do that if there's something to be looked at. So it was a specific moment, and then I brought up, then it was like, what did he say to you? Does this child want to give you a hug? If the child happened to want to hug him, then it's like, what does the child have to say? We get all these different messages. I keep describing the scenario around him, so it just keeps him immersed in this moment in his mind's eye, and then I use that. I separate him out of the meditation, and then I come back to him, so then I can talk to him a little bit. That's just a helpful way of getting me to get into what's going on, how his inner child is feeling. Because then once I can gauge how his inner child is feeling, we can start to investigate where that anger is coming from. What did the child say to you? Interesting. He said this. And when I was working with this person, there was I'm not going to reveal what it was, but it was a story of shame, and there was a lot of shame around that. And then we started to investigate that shame. And that's the thing with shame, is it's shame wants to hide in the darkness, but once you bring it to the surface and bring it to the light, it can allow that shame to be revealed, so that it can be healed, and it can be reparented in a way. So shame came up, he had a release, and then from there it was like, that was just the session. Revealing that shame, releasing it, working through that. That's just one aspect, but I do something else. I use emotion code. So emotion code is kind of how I live my life, and how I work on myself, and how I do my shadow work. It's based off of this guy. I'm blanking on his name. He basically channeled it. Where it's a chart that has all the emotions on this chart, and there are 2 columns, and on each row is a specific organ, and the different emotions attached to it are what are attached to that organ, different parts of the body. I think shame is like somewhere in the like kidney area, but how I work, and this is kind of coincides with the mediumship, is I investigate what's going on in their life. How are they feeling emotionally? When they can tell, like, for example, I'm feeling a lot of depression or anger or such and such around this area of my life, or like I'm feeling blocked in this area. What I like to do is start with the heart and what's called a heart wall, and open up that heart wall. And the best place to start is opening up that heart wall so that they can start to really go deeper into the system to heal those, to heal just wounds underneath. The heart is the most important aspect to heal all other aspects. Heart chakra will connect with all the rest of the chakras. So what I'll do is use the emotion code chart, and there are multiple ways you can do this. You could do muscle testing. You can use with your arm. You ask the body does a question, and the body, if it resists, that's I believe it's a yes, and if it lets go, it's a no. I do it this way, where I use my finger, where this is a no, this is a yes, and that connects with mediumship, because you're connecting to an energy, you're connecting to a frequency, and that's telling you. This is kind of how I listen to God, is I let God give me the yes or the no through tapping into their system. For some people, it's different. So for a heart wall, I could ask, are you dealing with any pain in your body? Like, so I'll ask the question, do you have a heart wall? And it'll say yes or no. And if it says yes, then I can go into investigating how to open that. So I ask, are there any trapped emotions in ... body that are preventing them from opening their heart wall? It'll say yes, then I'll find that emotion. It'll guide me to that emotion. And then there's two ways that this can go. It can either be an easy release, which is most of trapped emotions can be easily released by going over the meridian of the body and then just wiping your hand across. It's almost like your hand is a magnet. And it's just like, I don't know why it does this, but this is what this guy taught. You just swipe your head over, and it's basically like in my eyes, why it does this is because you're literally tapping into your subconscious and you're telling you it's safe to release. So you're just wiping your hand over your head. That emotion then releases. This is where the shadow work comes in, because I will ask, okay, can this be released? Sometimes it will say no. In that's where we have to dive further. This way of working is how I get to pinpoint core issues quickly. I don't have to do it this way, but I found it to be pretty easy and beneficial and can get to the core of things pretty quickly. And so, like, if it doesn't let me release, that means that there's a shadow, like I call it a shadow block. It's a shadow. It's the subconscious mind that's holding on to it because it's not ready to let the emotion go. That tells me that there's something that happened, and quite frankly, it could be a trauma that's holding on and is not ready to let go. And that's where it can get a little bit more challenging, to where you need to take there's many facets, but like holding space for the person and kind of like diving into their psyche and going back in time in the shadow to find that moment that they're holding on to. So yeah, I hope this, I don't know if this is making sense of what I'm saying, but this is just kind of like my process. Like, I'm trying to think of if I could give you an example. Like, I could, like, for you, like, I could do it on you if you wanted me to give an example.
We could try it.
So it could be like, what's your name? Your name's Will. Mm-hmm. Will, does Will have a heart wall? Does Will have a heart wall? It says yes. It's very common for people to have heart walls. And then also for people that are watching this, for you, anybody, some people, when they see this shit, they're like, this is bullshit. And I'm totally okay with them thinking it's bullshit. The only way you can do this work with me, this kind of work, is if you have faith. You have faith that it's actually like, I have faith, but like, if you don't have faith in it, it's not, you can, if you don't feel safe and you don't feel open, it's not going to work. Right. So then I would add, like, I'd say, okay, so you have a heart wall, right? Says yes. Then I would be like, are there anything, so I'm asking you, Will, are there any trapped emotions in Will's body that is preventing him from opening his heart wall? It says yes. Then I would pull out my chart. So, and there's emotions that are on it. So if you don't mind waiting until my phone boots up, I can give you an example of an emotion that would show up. I did this with somebody. I did this on IG where I connected with a father who had passed. I was getting there was he had pain in his spine. And I worked with him on getting to the root of where that spine issue was coming from. And it was actually coming from, literally just doing this work when we got to a year, a time, and then an age. And it guided me to this trapped emotion. And then we discovered that it was his father's emotion that had been passed to him. Mm. And then once we released it, the next day, his spinal pain was gone. It's very connected. If you look deeper into it, it's connected with German New Medicine. I don't know if you know much about German New Medicine. It's very connected with that because I'll give you a little context before we do one thing with you. Mm-hmm. This German New Medicine is literally, it was off of this guy, German guy, Dr. Hammer, and he discovered that through a moment in time that happened with his son died of a car crash. And then after that car crash, he developed, I believe it was cancer. And then he had this light bulb moment that he believed that the cancer was actually created by the trauma of his son dying. And he had not healed that. So then he started to do investigations into that world. And what he found is that he created this system called German New Medicine where all cancers, all different allergies, irritations, rashes are all coming from an emotional response that has happened in their sphere with with people, moments in time. And when that is healed in the body, it goes away, the rash goes away, it's all good. Same thing with cancer. So this has correlation to German New Medicine. Mm-hmm. I've done this work on myself. I've had rashes that have showed up on my eyes from emotional responses, and I've gotten to the root of that, healed it. The rash goes away the next day. So it's in my experience been very powerful work. Mm-hmm. So you have a heart wall. So are there any trapped emotions in Will's body that are preventing him from opening his heart wall? Yes. Let's find that. Column A, row 1. Abandonment. Is this abandonment coming from, did Will create this emotion? Is this coming from somebody in his family? Is this, how old are you, Will?
24.
24. Is this coming from at age 24, under age 24, under age 20, above age 20, 21, 22, age 21, 20, 21. So it's coming at age 21 of abandonment. Is this coming from his mother, from his father? It's coming from your father. So abandonment from your father, age 21. This is the moment where we would investigate, is this a shadow emotion? So it's a shadow emotion. This is at this point, and we don't have to go any further. At this point, that's when I would investigate. Mm-hmm. I like to say with these things, I'm just connecting with your energy, and we get to connect. We're like a team. I'm just channeling with you. So once we get to the root of something like this, then we can be like, okay, what happened at 21? Is there anything coming up? Did something happen with you and your father at age 21? And then maybe it's like you tell a story, you're like, actually this happened with my dad such and such amount of time, and I'm feeling something like, and this is me channeling right now, I'm feeling something in my heart, me, Jared, but I feel that it's coming from you. So I could be wrong, but there's something showing up in my heart right now that's telling me that there's something going on that brought something up in you.
Yeah, something.
Yeah. So that's how I work. I have an open channel. I energetically connect. I'm not here to change anybody. I'm just here to be a vessel to help bring things to the surface. This stuff, to me, it's very powerful. It's helped me immensely. However, it takes trust. It takes trust and safety. And to be able to do this work, half the time when people see this, they're like, this is bullshit. Because they have to be open to channeling. They have to be open to energy. They have to be open to person calling themselves a medium, which I do believe I am. This is the first time I've actually like really spoken this out loud in front of somebody, like to be able to say what it is I do, because this is my truth. I know there are people out there that are like, mediums are dangerous. To me, danger, if I am doing harm to somebody, I'm always investigating, is this going to be of harm or of empowerment? I'm only looking to empower the individual. So it's all about, as long as we can get to a place to free you, that's what's important. So I have learned a lot of just like making sure that whatever I'm doing is empowering the individual. Because like if the person's not ready for, like if they have a past loved one, and also I have to make sure I say this, I am connecting only with unconditional love and light, which is coming from God. Anything else will not serve. So it's very important to state that, because as far as channeling or as far as connecting with energy, you've got to be ready that there are different things that are going to want to come into your field that are not of the light. But my understanding is, with great light, there is also great darkness. And when you're a light worker, which is what I am, you're also going to be working with dark. And there's nothing wrong with dark. It's like we need the yin and the yang. But like to be able to help empower somebody, you just need to love it. You don't want to get rid of it. You don't want to kill it. You just want to love it. The more love you can give, the more I can support you. Maybe you're saying, this isn't making me feel safe right now. Like, what is it that can make you feel more safe? Do we need to, it's just like, it's a dance. Mm-hmm. It's a dance. Gosh, you're really good at just letting me speak. I do love to speak, but sometimes I gotta be like, okay.
Yeah, no, I'm always happy to that's the point of this.
Thank you. Thank you.
I am curious about your dark night of the soul that you mentioned.
Oh yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about like who you were before and after that?
I have to go back there because I don't know who that is anymore. Mm-hmm. So here's what I'll say. When I moved to New York and I started to I got an agent, a commercial agent, and I had a manager who basically was an agent for film and theater. And I was really like cooking. Like I was very, I would say very in my ego. And what I mean by that is I was just like thriving off. I didn't care about anybody else. And I was seemingly at the time, I was living a purpose-driven life and didn't give I just wanted to do my acting thing. And I was with a woman at the time, and I was getting these messages of like, you need to leave her for so many reasons. But one is I just, she wasn't the right person for me. And I just needed to go towards my purpose. And she was just taking too much energy or too much of my time. And I'm just trying to speak from who I was at this time. And when so I was reading this book, The Alchemist, at the time. And Alchemist was just like blowing my mind. And I feel like Alchemist was actually like really the first sign of my spiritual development, where I was starting to see things differently. And I feel like God kind of guided me to that book. It's just an incredible book. I don't know if you read The Alchemist.
I have not. I've heard a lot about it.
It's a great book. And it's about the hero's journey. And it's fictional tale. But there's this one moment in the book where he comes to this woman at a well. And her name is Fatima. I think Fatima or Fatim. And he falls in, it's like his soulmate. And he sees her and he's on his purpose. And he's following that purpose. And he tells her, if we're meant to be, we will meet again. I will come back for you. And I got so inspired by just the book itself and him going on his journey and everything. And I decided to tell this to this person, my partner. Because I was just like, you know what? At the time, I really didn't think she was taking my energy. But when I look back, it was like she was taking my energy. But I thought, I will tell her this. I will say, I'm going to focus on my purpose. And if we're meant to be, it's meant to be. And actually, that was probably the most powerful thing I could have ever told her. What happened was not what I expected. She just screamed at me and was like, fuck you. Just said that over and over. Fuck you. Fuck you. Like over and over again. And of course I was broken. I was just like, what have I done? We get off the phone and then I started freaking out and scrambling and thinking like, oh my gosh, I fucked everything up. She called me crazy. Because she was like, you got this from that fucking Alchemist book. And then she basically said, do you know that she like read up about this author? It's like, did you know that this author actually went crazy and like he had to go to a psych ward and then like when I was trying to figure out what I just done, I started to think I was going crazy because I didn't know who I was. I didn't know myself. And so I let someone on the outside tell me and dictate who I was. Mm. And so when that happened, I legitimately thought I was going crazy. And I got scared. And I talked to a friend a friend, which I feel like was misguided advice, said, you need to get her back. And so I literally like said the right things, was able to get her back in a sense, but then we ended up breaking up at the end of the day. When we finally broke up, that was when I was lost. Because I didn't realize that.
So you break up the second time for good.
Yeah, for like we've been in and out of relationship. This was fourth time.
Okay.
Which is funny, but like but official fourth time. And after that, I was in complete despair, I guess would be the word. Despair. I didn't even know what the word grief was. Like I've heard grief, but I didn't know that grief is a very like important process of healing. Mm-hmm. But I didn't know that I was grieving. I was just, and I was scared. I like didn't know what my point in life was. Like I was just like, who am I? What's my purpose? like I didn't have a purpose anymore. Like nothing mattered. Like that's literally what I like the space I was in. Nothing mattered. And then that's when I met, I would call her an angel. Like she's like a mother to me in like another life. And she would be considered like a life coach, but honestly, she's just like we've come to the agreement. She would be considered a spiritual co-pilot, as we've come to understand. Her name's Ashley. She's, just mother. She's had her own journey. I knew her from my acting school. She used to direct there, but I ended up calling her in a complete wreck. And I'm like, I don't know who I am anymore. I don't know what my purpose is. And then that's when she started giving me all these books to read. She was, there's so many things we talked about, but she gave me all these books to read to start me on my path. That was when I discovered Siddhartha, The Way of the Peaceful Warrior, Eat, Pray, Love. And there's some other books there, but those are the ones that stick out to me. But that kind of like started me on my healing journey. Man, and I put a lot, like, once I was out of the relationship, I was confused because I was just like, I was in so much pain that I'm like, I don't want this pain. I just want to get back with the person where I wasn't feeling that pain. But that's when I started to understand that it's like, this is a part of the healing process. Mm-hmm. You're not in that relationship anymore because you guys weren't meant to be together. But the only way that you can grow and then you can go on your hero's journey is you've got to keep growing. And I realized that I couldn't keep growing with being in that relationship. But it took me a really long time to realize that. Or not really long time, but it took me a couple of years to understand that was what was going on.
What does your dream life look like?
My dream life? I'm living it. But what's my future vision right now?
Yeah.
To be living in Costa Rica, to have a dojo that is a dojo for spiritual growth, where there's multiple facilitators helping people in healing their wounds and basically mastering themselves so that they can be in loving relationships with others. I want to have a touring show, Liberate Your Wild, that's touring around the world. I want to be like me speaking, like my dream life is speaking to people all over the world about unconditional love and guiding people to God. Actually, I used to say my vision used to been, or my dream used to have been, guiding people to joy. But what I realize, if I'm looking for people to be authentic and free, it's really to guide people to God. And I will go and be transparent in saying that I believe that we are God. God is not outside of us. God is within. And we can go into a whole nother talk about that, because I have a lot to say about that. But God is within. God is unconditional love. You want to live an unconditional loving life? You are God. Live that unconditional, because you are God. And what I mean, there is only one God. Only one. And he is all of us. He moves through all of us. And to ultimately know God is to know unconditional love, to know the mother and the divine mother and the divine father, which is God. But in my experience, and I really like to say it is a knowing that God is unconditional love, point blank simple. There is no fluff. It is that. And, you can talk a lot further into it. But yeah, back to vision, dream, is to guide everybody to God. So one way would be doing the Liberate Your Wild that goes around the world where people are experiencing that, and then to be serving others, helping them be free, but living close to the water, having a beautiful family with my wife, and 2 kids and building. Like, it'd be really cool to build my own house with helpers, have a really beautiful house that's regenerative, like that has like a connected to a regenerative farm. I want to be a part of a community that's building heaven on earth, creating regenerative agriculture, being around community that is connected with their divine selves, or that wants to connect with their divine selves. Yeah, that's my dream. And just, doing what I'm doing now. Like I really am living my dream right now. And it's just what I want to be doing in the future is just is traveling the world and speaking to a bunch of people. It's so funny. It's so interesting that the one thing that terrified me the most, which is to be on the stage and speak as myself, is the one thing that I want to do now. And bro, when I say this, and it's still I still get this feeling, even though I know it's a thing that I love to do, is a feeling like I'm going to be killed when I step on the stage to speak. That's how strong that fear is. But I know it's an illusion, but it's there. Mm-hmm. And something tells me that is connected to past life shit. Because somebody said this to me. So I have a background in stand-up comedy. One of these stand-up comedians told me this. I told him, dude, I literally get terrified to go on stage. And he said, my theory is that part of the reason why people get terrified to speak or be on stage is because it's past life of when people were killed, hung, like murdered. Maybe in a past life you were killed in front of everyone, that type of stuff. So it's just it literally feels like I'm going to die. And I think what that tells me is it's just a matter of experience, because the death can be just a metaphor. It's it's the thing that you need to step forward and do so that you can let that the new aspect of you step in and the old part of you die. So yeah, that's my dream.
Awesome. Jared Thompson, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
That was awesome, man. I can tell you're not bullshitting anything. You're very direct and clear with what you have to say. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, man. I appreciate your way you hold space and just allowing me to really speak. Yeah.
Where can people find out more about you?
Yeah, you can I have a website, jared-thompson.com. You can find me on Instagram at jared.thompson.ignite. You can find me on YouTube, which I have not launched the podcast yet, but it will be launching in 2025. But the YouTube is The Way Spiritual Dojo. And then I'm on TikTok as well. Honestly, I don't know what's going on with. I'm still learning, but the Instagram algorithm just I don't get it these days, man. I post all the time, so you can find me on Instagram. Please follow me and please comment, connect with me, because half the time I'm I put out great content and I get no anything. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Well, dude, we're at the mercy of Instagram,
bro. It's but that's what I say. Follow me on TikTok too, because everybody comments. Everybody I'm just I love TikTok because it's just people engage.
Yeah. So
I don't know what's going on with Instagram right now. I've got multiple times where I've got demonetized on different videos, and it's just ugh.
Goodness.
But yeah.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye.